Have you ever heard of a reverse diet? And no, I'm not talking about gaining a few pounds while you've been working from home for the last couple of months. I'm talking about the process of being able to eat more food without gaining much weight. Well, we're going to talk about it in this video. By the end, you'll know what a reverse diet is, if you should do one sometime, and how to do one if you do. So here we go. So before we define what a reverse diet is, let's decide what a diet is. Well, in this context, a diet is a period of weight loss that's caused by a calorie restriction. When we eat less calories than we burn, our body uses stored body fat to make up the energy difference. And always remember, it doesn't take a special diet with a name or a fad to lose weight. Any diet that causes a calorie restriction enough to put you in a negative energy balance will make you lose weight. Okay, before we go on, let's talk about how our bodies adapt to the number of calories that we're eating. If you've ever heard of a weight loss plateau, what that is when you're in a caloric deficit and you're losing weight and then all of a sudden you stop losing weight. What's happened most of the time is that your body has now adapted to the number of calories that you've been eating. And to make a long story short, the fact is now that your body has adapted to those calories, you're actually no longer in a calorie deficit. Now, there's strategies along the way that we can use with clients to help minimize and prevent these plateaus, but for the point of this video, I just want you to understand that your body adapts to the number of calories that you eat, because we're going to use that to our advantage when it comes to a reverse diet. Okay, let's say we have a client that we've been help losing fat for a few months, and we get to the point where we've reached a great body composition for her. We've reached our goal. Let's say, for example, she's eating 1,500 calories per day when we get to that goal, which for her, let's say, is about 150 calorie per day calorie deficit, meaning that her body wants about 1,650 calories per day. So since we no longer want her losing weight, we need to get her out of a calorie deficit. 9 times out of 10, we're going to do that by increasing her calories through carbohydrates. So why carbohydrates? Well, we already probably have her protein intake pretty high, and extra carbohydrates added to her diet will only help to give her more energy. So depending on how many calories we need to make up to get out of this calorie deficit, we may divide those calories up into a couple different blocks spread across 2 to 3 weeks as we bring them up to what's called maintenance calories. Maintenance calories is really just a fancy way to say the number of calories that you can eat on average per day without gaining or losing weight. All right, so we've added about 150 calories to this hypothetical female client's diet over the course of about 2 weeks through carbohydrates. That equals about 38 grams of carbohydrates. Now, something to be aware of. When you increase your carbohydrate intake, you're also going to have a little bit more water retention as those carbohydrates are stored as reserve energy. This is not body fat, and if anything, it might make her muscles appear a little bit bigger. Okay, we're at maintenance calories. Now comes the fun part. Remember how I said that our bodies adapt to the number of calories that we eat? Well, we're going to use that to our advantage now through this reverse diet process to get our client eating more food without gaining much weight. Here we go. But before we get into the how, let's get a little bit into the why. Why would we want to add calories to somebody's diet? Well, there's 3 main reasons. Number 1, being in a caloric deficit is a stress on the body. So getting out of a caloric deficit and adding more calories in helps reset the hunger hormones, gives you a mental break from dieting, and just increases energy overall. The second reason is that if you want to build muscle and build strength, you need adequate calories to do that. So increasing calories over time is a great way to add more muscle mass and to increase your strength potential. And then last, but certainly not least, is increasing your calories over time actually gives you a way to be able to cut calories in the future should you decide that you want to lose more fat. So if we do this in the right way, we can trick our body into using these extra calories productively for things like building muscle and increasing our energy. And since most of our calories are burned throughout the day just completing life's tasks, what this usually means is you just have more energy overall. People who successfully use this reverse diet strategy can generally eat more food over time without gaining weight. Take Blakely, for example. Over the past few years, she's used this strategy to where she can now maintain her existing body weight and muscle mass on about the same number of calories as many average-sized males. All right, let's get back to our female client. We've increased her calories by about 150. She's feeling good. We've monitored her along the way. Let's say she's gained about a pound of water weight. Now what we're going to do is we're going to slowly add more calories in through carbohydrates while monitoring her progress. I like to take a conservative approach and add somewhere between 40 and 80 calories per week, keeping an eye on her body weight, making sure we're not being too aggressive. If we get too aggressive, we may outpace her body's ability to adapt to these new calories, and she'll store some of the calories as body fat. Now, it's unrealistic to think that you're not going to gain any fat during this process, but by being conservative and monitoring along the way, we can mitigate our risks. So we'll monitor her body weight several times per week, we'll monitor her energy, and we'll slowly increase calories while watching how she responds. If we feel like we got too aggressive, we can pull back. We actually just finished going through this process with a male client. Over the course of about 10 months, he's lost 30 pounds of fat. Pretty awesome. We adjusted his calories, his macronutrients along the way. We took breaks from dieting, and we ultimately got to the place where we loved where his body composition was at, and we decided to spend some time building muscle. But we didn't want to undo all the progress that we had made, so that we got to use this reverse dieting principle. Over the last 4 months, we've slowly increased his calories, little by little, monitoring along the way. When we finished his diet, he was at about 1,850 calories. Over those 4 months, we got him up to a high of 2,450 calories at 300 grams of carbohydrates per day. The amazing thing is that since we monitor both his weight and progress photos, we can see that he's only gained about 3 pounds, and based on the photos, it's just about all muscle, which is pretty stinking amazing. So here we are now at the beginning of May, and summer is just around the corner. Well, I can guarantee you now that his body has adapted to 2,450 calories per day, we're not going to have to get anywhere near that 1,850 calorie per day mark in order to get him even leaner than he was when he stopped dieting. So a reverse diet isn't magic. As I've explained, it's just a way to take advantage of your body's natural ability to adapt to the number of calories that you eat. It would be unrealistic to think that you can drastically increase your calories without gaining any weight, but if you take a conservative approach like the way I've described in this video, you can maximize the number of calories you eat while minimizing the amount of fat that you gain. One warning for you. If you've ever dieted really hard for a special occasion like a cruise where you knew you were going to have your shirt off a lot, you're in a calorie restricted state for a long time, you go on the cruise and then you drastically increase your calories, that's the way you store rapid body fat. Your body is primed to store body fat in those cases. And that's the reason that we use a reverse diet to slowly increase calories versus throwing a bunch at you all at once. If you've made it this far and you have any questions, send us a message. If you want to apply for coaching and have us guide you through this process, we'd be happy to. Send us a message. Have a great day.